the thing is, when I just was in China, gold and silver are absolutely being gobbled up. Part of it is because China is building its gold supremacy. That's what Forbes actually called it, as a US dollar alternative. You know, the main thing, though, is the EV cars. They're going to need it for their connectivity and their data capability. Data centers, everybody's now recognizing AI, right? That's going to be the big thing. China's making it part of their national infrastructure. We're hoping to compete. But, you know, China, the thing with China is scale.
All right, you mentioned AI. How does that relate to what we're talking about?
Well, think microchips, right? Microchips. In the Chinese automotive industry, they call them digital gold, because for all of the things that we have, from our iPhone, GPS devices, smart watches, now our cars are smart. I mean, China has buses that are self-driving buses. There are self-flying air taxis now. All of these require compute, and memory chips involve, you know, lots of these conductive metals like gold and silver. And what we see is these chips are rising in price.
All right, so you bought early. You're smart. That doesn't surprise me. And now it went up in value quite a bit. But has it peaked? Or if we buy now, is it likely to continue going up in value in the coming years?
I mean, no one has a crystal ball, and no one can promise what's going to be happening in the future. But the U.S. has added silver finally to the critical minerals list. So that means silver is crucial for U.S. security and economic viability. China is the largest producer of gold and consumer gold, and largest producer and consumer of gold. China is the largest producer and consumer of gold. So I would say, given what the U.S. and China, the two biggest economies in the world, are saying, to me, that means it's going to continue to represent a strong value, stability, and security as an investment.
All right. Well, as long as people do their research and, you know, try to find experts, people they trust, they can make their own decisions. But it seems to me like even though we're getting into the game kind of late, it's still worth doing. So yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Hey, good evening. It is The Whiners, episode 84. Ryan Morgan and Jeff, your hosts. And he's a media bigwig in China. He and one of my favorites, Cyrus Jansen, talk about the real China all the time. It's Alex Reporterfy joining us tonight. Well, it's your morning. It's our evening. Hi, Alex.
Hey there.
Last time I spoke with you, Alex, I was in Chongqing. This was a couple of weeks ago now, and we were trying to figure out a number of things on we were just trying to squeeze everything into the trip that we possibly could. And clearly means I'm going to have to come back to be able to see everything that you talked about.
Sure.
But we've got a lot to talk about tonight. China is actually on the table everywhere. Before we do, I want to know, Jeff, what are you drinking tonight?
A Spanish wine, my dear friend Ryan. I made my return to Trader Joe's and took advantage of something that's highly recommended. I've only taken like half a sip so far, so I can't tell you what I think about it, but I will warn you, the alcohol content is high, so by mid-show, I should be impossible to deal with.
Well, I don't know if Alex drinks Baijiu. That is 52% alcohol by that one. I'm not drinking that high of alcohol as either you, Jeff, or that. I'm drinking a California red wine I've had before, Cabernet Sauvignon Valley Growers, and it's pretty darn good. I do recommend it. It kind of tastes above its price range. So
Well, I
speaking of
wanted to ask
California,
you about Chinese wine and get
Yeah.
Alex's input on this, because Alex, while Ryan was there, I looked up, and in fact, let me, I think I have the image here somewhere, whether or not, how much wine is being produced in China. If you look at that image there, it says it's in the top 10 now.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan was telling me he had problems finding what we would call regular wine, Western wine, whatever, from France, California, Italy, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
he was able to find this weird rice wine only. So I was a little bit confused. I mean, I totally believe Ryan, but I'm just confused about the discrepancy between what he found and what I found online. Can you kind of clarify what people drink there and what's available and all that?
Sure. So consumption-wise, if you're going to the average corner store, we'll call it, you will probably see Baijiu. And that is the Chinese version. I would say a cross between sake and a little bit of vodka tasting. So, I mean, it definitely is a surprise to the tongue when you're trying it as a Westerner for the first time. But as you get into the larger style of grocery shops, over here in China, we do have Sam's Club and Costco and Walmart. You start to see all types of wines. And, a couple of years ago, I did visit a region. You had it on the as one of the listed there just earlier, Ningxia. This area does produce a lot of wines. They are competing wines now in part of the world. But we have to take into consideration that, this is a new kind of wine drinking, I would say, country. If we are to believe the figures and the abundance of wine around the world, well, within 10 to 15 years, if the Chinese do get into second gear when it comes to drinking wine, there will be a shortage. And that shortage means that there will not be enough red wine production to manage the consumers in China here. And you can see in France during the early 2000s into the mid 2000s, let's say 2012 to 2018, there was a lot of purchases of vineyards in especially the south of France and also in the Bordeaux region by wealthy Chinese investors. So there is a market for it. Of course, cities like Shanghai, which we will say are very westernized, they do have a drinking culture for that. But as you start to get to the interior, southwest China, and more down towards, let's say, the Shenzhen, Guangzhou area, it is available. But we are still seeing in cities like Chongqing that getting wine by glass is quite difficult today. But trust me, when the Chinese put their eye on something, they will definitely be consumers soon.
By the way, Sarah Allard said wine and Chinese food don't go together. I had no Chinese food in China. I just had lots of food.
I was going to say maybe American Chinese food. I feel like that's really
nobody
different.
in China calls it Chinese food, so it's.
Well, I don't think Sarah's American. I don't remember where she lives. Where do you live, Sarah?
Europe.
Somewhere. Europe. Yeah. Well, what about the price, Alex? Like a bottle of wine that we might get for, say, $15 in the U.S. What does it cost in China?
Okay, so here's where I kind of disagree with the pricing here in China. Living in the south of France for almost 20 years, managing to drink wine like it is water down there, you get accustomed to what is a decent wine, what is consumable wine, and what is collectible wine. The Chinese seem to, I think, outprice some of the people that are some of the nations that are quite mature. For example, I've seen the pricing from, let's say, a local distributor here, and I was at a wine tasting and they said, okay, what do you think of our wine? And I said, well, some of it is quite interesting. Some of it needs to, maybe age a bit more. And some of it is awful. But to be honest with you, the pricing is out of whack, because if you're going to drink a bottle of wine, let's say you want to buy it off the shelf and consume it right away. Sometimes you're paying anywhere from $30 to $40 a bottle. Now, in the United States, you're going to get a decent bottle for that. But for some reason, I'm not sure if it is the local, and I'm not going to blame it on the vineyards, but I'm going to blame it more on the distributors. They're looking at it from a markup. They're looking at it with no competition. You got to remember, if you are bringing wine or introducing wine into a market, of course, let's say you live in the United States of America and wine is now coming into the American market. Well, you're not going to trust French wine first. You're going to trust your local brand. And if your local distributors are, let's say, for a polite term, price gouging at the start because they know that the young drinkers are naive, they will charge a premium until the market balances out. Now, I think that market is wide open here. But again, another thing that I want to, explain is that this is also a political game here in China too, where you have to be careful, because if your industry is reliant on Chinese consumers, well, your country better be in check geographically and geopolitically. If not, they'll be off the shelf. And simple as, what happened to US grade beef here in the country, it was pretty much off limits. And now, after the latest visit by the administration, it's going to be back on the shelves. I can tell you lately, I have seen not very good selection of American wines like I used to see on the shelves here, and more of Argentinian wines now coming into the market. A lot of countries in South America come in and fill that gap in, and that could be
those countries
political.
Those countries produce good
Sure.
wine. What about Spain or France or Italy?
Yep, they're there too. As long as the trading relationship is good, and the as long as you're not slapping 150% threat on tariffs on every other item in the country, your wine should flow here pretty good under the radar without any major tariffs.
Well, I think you were referring to wine produced in China a minute ago when you're talking about the prices are too high. But what
Yes,
about,
of course.
What about French or Italian or Argentinian and all these imported wines? What's the price like for those?
Some bottles we're seeing as cheap as $9 a bottle.
That are
Around
good,
there.
right?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Malbecs.
Then I might come.
12.
Ryan's
14,
trying to get us to come. Morgan's resistant because of the surveillance she perceives. We can get into that. And I have a couple of concerns we need to overcome, but I'm definitely interested.
That's right. Jeff is actually part Uyghur, and he feels that he had to flee China for that reason. So actually, you've already touched on a number of things, Alex, speaking of markets, and you were talking about some stability. So last week on Wednesday, I met with these gentlemen, my friend Rob in the middle, Mr. Wang on the left, Jerry, his American name, on the right, and Mr. Wang right there in the tan. These are some of the diplomats in the consulate in China, and they wanted to have a full discussion report back on my trip to China, and they wanted to talk about the whiners. What Jeff and Morgan said just about these questions that like the surveillance. But one thing I wanted to say is that they were emphasizing stability. Economic stability is forefront in their mind, and that there is a desire to have a partnership and good relations with the United States. And I'm bringing that up because of what you just said, where the beef is going to be back on the shelf, so to speak, in China, American-made beef after President Trump's trip. Now, the internet was full of comments about, did Xi snub Trump or not? What came out of that? These men, they all said that they thought the trip was very good, that it was a good start, though, that because of the way the Chinese think, they want to build a relationship, not just have a one-time, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, kind of a meeting or a deal. What do you think about at least that part so far?
When you bring over $14.1 trillion in market cap, you're not here for a meet and greet. And that's what the current administration did here in China. bringing a lot of heavyweights in business over. I can understand why Elon Musk would come here, because he has the Gigafactory in Shanghai. He sells 4% of Tesla's automobiles to the domestic buyers here in China. And for the rest, he exports them out of the country. So it's within his interest to come and showcase, of course, his automobiles, and to also show that he's very happy with the current status. Now, when it comes to who showboated who, the Chinese aren't interested in that.
That's what I
they're,
think.
as you would say here, they're business minded. They have every year, every March, they have the 2 sessions. This is where, the government, we'll call it Beijing for a better term, focuses on a 5-year plan. And in that 5-year plan, it always wants stability, and it always puts the people first. What is the best for the people of the country? So when we see a government that is more focused on, stabilizing trade agreements, you're going to not come away with a feeling that, did Xi snub Trump? Did Trump win one over? This is the China way. It's forward, it's building bridges, and it's trying to basically calm the worldwide markets down. Now,
in other words, they're not a bunch
where
of
we were-
fucking babies like Americans. It's also not true that he was shunned, right? I mean, because from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, she doesn't normally greet world leaders at the airport. So how is that shunning if he did what he normally does, plus had this rather elaborate presentation with school children dancing for Trump and so forth?
I think that might be a little bit of Western sensationalism when you're so focused on something coming off an airplane that, are we going to watch every move? Well, then maybe the North Koreans did a better job of it. I mean, maybe Kim Jong-un did a better job with meeting him at the demilitarized zone.
No, I'm saying he doesn't usually. I'm saying he doesn't usually do that. Correct or not correct?
I haven't even focused on that. That didn't even come into my mind. But when the Americans were here, there was a serious tone to it. The media was put on alert, and the media was saying, report the facts and stay with the facts. And everybody pretty much understood that, this was a serious meeting. And again, I think, there are some, questions that still need to be answered. Are we going to see tariffs come into this economy here in China? I don't think we got a clear answer with that. I think we got okay, let's kick the can down the road a bit and let's see where things are going. But the last time the administration tried that in April of last year, they saw their global response to it. And they also saw their markets, especially the S&P, get absolutely vaporized in front of them. And they decided, okay, we better pivot back and get this market back going, or we're going to see the U.S. economy go down the sewer real quick.
Well, the reason I brought up this whole line, I'm glad Jeff said what he said there, is that it seems to me that it was a much better trip, much from economy, from the standpoint of cooperation, et cetera, than people here would let on. And what I've noticed over the last week, increasingly, there's just lots of anti-China stuff, China bashing. So let me I grabbed this real quick, and I'm sorry that it's so small, but what you have here, Laura Loomer is coming out calling for CEO Jensen Huang from NVIDIA to be thrown off of the advisory council to the president. You have Senator Jim Banks saying, okay, I'm going to do what you say. And it's because now he's really a front for the CCP. You have Mario Nawfal, Representative Luna, basically saying the same thing. General Michael Flynn, who's been pretty good on the question of Russia and Ukraine and why Zelensky's a bum, he's saying the same thing. Wired magazine had a whole thing about how influencers are being paid to somehow come to the defense of Palantir and OpenAI. So there's just like this whole flood of things. And I'm thinking, this is like a total step backwards when it seems like some people around the president are saying, hey, we do need to work with China for the same reasons that you said. And one more thing on that, I also noticed the opposition in Taiwan last month went to go meet with President Xi as well. So it's like there are actually good things happening. So why now is it this big, insane, the Chinese are coming? It's like Chinagate versus Russiagate, right?
Interesting. Let's just start it off with the abbreviation that you used. I mean, when people are referring to it as the CCP, it's actually the abbreviation is CPC, the Communist Party of China. It is the official English name used by the Chinese government and the state media here. I mean, when we're hearing people refer to it as the CCP, well, unless they can read or understand, that is a shot or pretty much, an anti-China way of saying, okay, we don't like the government over there. I mean, it's very strange on how much people focus on the government here, especially tourists. Like, it's not like, people, I would arrive in New York and go, okay, look at that. Alex is a MAGA. He's a MAGA. He's in New York. He's MAGA. Well, I've just traveled to New York. What does MAGA have to do with my travel? But now he's gone back to China. He loves the CCP. He's a mouthpiece for the CCP.
That's what I've been called.
Okay.
Just talking about my trip. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, and when you're using, and also, I mean, Laura Loomer, I mean, the lady needs help. I mean, she's in serious downfall. I do feel a little bit bad for her. But, when she's barking to NVIDIA, telling them what to do, I think Laura should be a little bit more responsible with her words. Maybe they can do a little bit of a backyard check to see how well, the Israelis are treating humans, especially in today's world. And maybe focus on that until, yes, thank you, until Israel gets its shit together. I mean, lately, when you hear a lot of this anti-China rhetoric, I mean, we've been hearing it for years. There is an obsession with the media. Fox News loves it. I mean, they put it on pretty much repeat. I open up my X account. All I see is anti-China, anti-China, anti-China. That's okay. I want to bring up an interesting point. You brought up a friend of mine before we got live, before we came live, Cyrus Jansen. He was actually emailed by either think tank or NGO or some organization in the United States and offered $10,000 to talk negative about China's AI. And he did an entire video on that. And that's quite a healthy sum to be paid to slander and defame Chinese companies that are embarking on their ambitions in artificial intelligence. But hey, as we go on, also there's in your budget, in your US budget, there is massive multi-million-dollar budget for this exact reason, to bash China. You will see it there. I mean, that's the American government, and it got approval. So that's not coming from me. And you wonder why so many people are smashing and bashing China. Well, hey, they're on the payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder who is on the payroll. Do you have any thoughts about who is and who isn't?
The Congress.
I would say Laura
No,
Loomer.
I'm talking about I'm talking about the so-called influencers, the podcasters or whatever, who are spewing an opinion that seems like it might be genuine, but they might be being paid.
Well, I can answer one. There is a woman on Instagram who has 1 million+ followers, Melissa Strawley or something like that. And it came out in Wired magazine, was paid a substantial amount to bash China AI on behalf of OpenAI and Palantir. And there are marketing agencies that pay influencers like her $5,000 at a time for a little 30-second thing. So
wow,
that's an example right there.
We got to get our audience up higher so they'll pay us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, look, Alex, the point I'm making more fundamentally is that this is all craziness because for me, when I was in China, it was like stepping 50 to 100 years into the future. Everywhere I went, it was like my mind was getting blown over and over again about the conveniences of life. And then the way that people talk about their government, people were very political. They're like, well, actually, our government cares about us. I can't think of one single person I've talked to in the United States in the last 20 years who has said, oh, no, the government really cares about us.
The boomers, boomers, they still...
Let's break that down, Ryan. Let's break down why they talk highly of their government. Is it because they have 60,000 kilometers of high-speed rail? Is it because major mega cities like Chongqing, Guangzhou, Tianjin, Shenzhen all have brand new state-of-the-art metro stations, train stations, brand new airports? Is it because 600 to 700 million people have been alleviated from poverty? Is it because this is one of the lowest crime nations in the world? Is it because this is one of the developing countries that is emerging? Is it because this is a country that has 154 countries signed up to the Belt and Road Initiative? Is it because a government that has pumped in multi-billions of dollars into the new energy vehicle market to help alleviate people's, expenditures on gas and bringing them extra money in their wallet? Is it because they have entire country has Medicare? Is it because there is a safety net? Is it because none of these cities have homeless problems? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. And that's probably why they're running out of stuff to pretty much complain about, because they do actually have a hotline here in the country where they can complain to the government directly. Yeah. So, yeah.
I was just in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I took a train between New York City and Stamford, Connecticut. And if I were to describe that train in one word, it would be rickety.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Ryan, what he's been saying about the trains in China, when I was just so rickety, noisy, stopping, shaking. You can just tell everything is old.
So Ryan, you had a good point. You were talking about kind of how this appears to be orchestrated when you have these positive movements of the American government meeting with the Chinese government, the opposition in Taiwan meeting with Xi Jinping. You appears orchestrated. I want to add someone else on the scene is with this Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary is creating these data centers in Utah. One of them is 2 times the size of Manhattan. He's getting significant pushback from the people, but he claims that it's not a populist movement, but it's China. So let's go ahead and play this video from Tucker Carlson's.
In the last 2 years, this narrative in North America about how negative data centers are. It started in Virginia, actually. The idea that they consume a lot of water, that they are very noisy, and all that's true from stuff that was built 15 years ago, but today that's not the case. And yet the narrative kept going. And I thought, who's doing this? Who would not want us to have compute power? Who would not want us to build our power grid out? Because when you build a data center today, you have to develop your own power and you can sell it back to the grid. That's what we're doing in Utah. I'm thinking to myself, the Chinese, they don't want us to do that. And I went through that whole thing with TikTok, as you may recall, and I actually saw the evidence of how the Chinese were manipulating the algorithm. Now they're doing it a different way. And that just kind of pisses me off. So I'm happy to add compute. I'm like, I don't want my kids in 20 years who live in New York being told what to eat for breakfast by the Chinese.
Why would China not want data centers built in the United States?
Because we're in a competition for AI compute. The nation that has the best AI models will be the winner of future wars. It'll have the most productive economy. We already know now, just looking at earnings that are coming out as we speak, Tucker, the earnings this quarter are unprecedented in terms of how good they are, because somehow, very quickly, and this is probably just serendipitous luck for this administration, AI compute is now being implemented in all 11 sectors of our economy, and it's enhancing both productivity and margin. So these companies are making a lot more money than they were anticipated to because AI is very productive. And people debate about the job shift and everything else, but the fact is the economy is on fire, even at a time when we have conflict. So if I were the Chinese, the last thing I want in America is the 5 or 6 tech companies that are competing with me on DeepSeek having more compute capacity. I want to shut down every single proposal for every single data center in every single state. And I want agitators. I want paid protesters. I want environmentalists. I want to shut it all down so that they can't train their models as fast as I can. Meanwhile, the Chinese just built, in terms of new power in the last 18 months, 400 gigawatts of new power, all with coal burning turbines. Coal. You know, they're not worried about the environment. The big guy over there says, build one here and then stick a data center beside it so I can train my DeepSeek model faster. And you've
Sounds like the same story.
So I want to get you guys' take on that because, you know, he talks about the Chinese government injecting protesters. He even goes on to name some of the protesters, which are just, you know, people that are objecting to how this data center is going to be brought by, you know, their tax dollars. You know, in Virginia, there was this high influx of the energy prices. Here in North Carolina, it's the same thing. You have new legislation being introduced because that has been an issue in different communities. So what's your guys' take on?
I don't think they care. That's good. That's my short answer. I don't think they care. They're interested in doing what China needs to do for themselves. That's my view.
You know, it's interesting because Kevin O'Leary recently also hired investigators to find out who was behind this. And it ended up being, there was 2 young girls that made a video that went viral.
Oh, is that one? Oh my gosh. I did see that.
This guy's a real jackass. I mean, I used to kind of liked him when he was on the Shark Tank, and it would be interesting to hear his feedback as a businessman. But I mean, this guy's got a shady past here now. His connection with the bankrupt exchange that went under, the crypto exchange that went under. He's been either named in a lawsuit or at least connected to it some way with Sam Bankman-Fried. He was an investor. I can't remember the name of the company now. The name escapes me. But
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah. So you'll see that O'Leary is in there somewhere, not part of the company. I believe he was endorsing.
FTX.
Yes, he was endorsing the company. And well, yeah, he'll probably be named in a lawsuit by the trustees after that thing went deep 6. But no, this guy's a real jackass. But when it comes to AI, China's, I mean, when you have a country of 1.4 billion people and you have a goal to move forward in this sector, everybody else is in the rearview mirror. If they either want to play with China and join the party and sell their goods, and you know, great, come on board. We'll build a bridge together. If you don't want to, get out of the way. We saw that with NVIDIA. Okay, you don't want to sell your semiconductors to China? Fine. We got companies like Huawei. We'll go do it ourselves. You want to tariff us in this sector? Fine. We'll go do it ourselves again. And I mean, it's just absolutely breathtaking, the speed that the Chinese will, you know, after being kicked, they will get right back up and they will continue to find a solution for it. So, I mean, this thing about, you know, do I look out the window? Do I see burning coal plants because there are data farms around here? I mean, no, but could China handle the expansion of what the world needs? Probably. I mean, can we blame China for everything? We're damn well trying to.
Yeah.
Can we blame them because we have relied on them as the warehouse to the world for the last 20 years? Are we going to go, oh, shame on you. We're going to consume your phones. We're going to consume all your goods. But the pollution that comes, don't, you know, hey, that's not, it's got nothing. We bought our stuff. We paid for it. You know, these are our iPhones, you know, how they were made. Don't want to ask any questions. You see, this is the thing that really irritates me as a Westerner here in China. When you're looking at the manufacturing that goes on here. These people get into work, they work very hard, and there's always, and I truly say this from the heart here, there are always ambitions to improve, the locations, the working environment, the mental health of all people that are working in an industry and in a country that is emerging. But when we hear, oh, these are cheap Chinese goods, or, look at the Chinese, they're killing our markets, they're taking our jobs. When Apple builds a phone here, just like these here, how can we say the Chinese can't build quality? If you're holding an iPhone, that is made in China. Now, where does the profits go? They go to the shareholders. Cupertino, California, they are the benefiters. So, all right, do the profits stay here in China? No, they don't. They go to Apple. Apple shareholders have been very happy over the last decade and a half. Then again, we go on to the next step. Are we angry that the average Chinese worker has worked hard, saved money for maybe 15 to 20 years, and might want to go on a vacation, or maybe buy a small little retirement home in another country? I don't know, maybe United States or Canada. What? We're pissed off because they're coming there and spending their money that they worked hard for, building our shit. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it really bothers me to see that we have this one view, and not everyone, but most people have been fed this view that China only builds cheap quality. I'll give you an example, and then I'll hand it back to you guys. Okay, you could look at this water bottle. You could say, okay, you go to a plastics and rubber plastic show here in China. There was a big one that was just happened here called China Plus in Shanghai. 900,000 people show up for it. Now, a buyer might say, okay, we gotta sell these bottles in the market, but we only want to pay 2 cents for the bottle. Now, the Chinese manufacturer, they're going to want that deal. And they're going to say, well, I mean, for 2 cents, the plastic is going to be real thin. But, if you spend 4 cents or 5 cents, it's going to be much more durable, and your consumer is going to be happy. Now, the buyer might say, wow, you know what? No, we actually want 2, and we're only going to pay you 2 for it. So in that case, you're going to take our order. Now, the Chinese will take the order. They will ship it over. People will buy it. Maybe it might crack or break, and they'll say, the damn Chinese, all they're doing is building cheap stuff. That comes from the buyer of these products, the importer. They're the ones that are responsible for the quality. You can look at 10 different teacups. You can get some of the greatest porcelain china, or you can get stuff that is absolute plastic. That is the buyer. You blame the buyer for that. Don't blame the Chinese for that at all.
I would like to give an example, Alex, since you mentioned it earlier. This is the Cyber Cab. This one's coming out of here in Austin. I was in the factory that makes the robots that build these when I was in China. And that factory welds the frame of this thing in 10 seconds when the industry standard is 44 seconds. So these are rolling off the out of the plant right now. Those are basically made in China, essentially. So in terms of that question of quality, that makes perfect sense what you just said. But I also want to talk about what I think is a cover story for the self-sabotage that the United States companies, politicians, et cetera, are actually engaged in. They're sabotaging our own development, because my sense of it is the Chinese at the government level and at the business level would love nothing more than to help the United States build up whatever it wants. And I have a good example here. Right now, since rare earths and AI and gold and silver, which we had in the intro, are big topics for people. What you have is that rare earth companies have been set up in the United States to try to replicate what China does. Now, 2 of the leading companies, one's called MP Materials and the other one's called US Rare Earths, have yet to produce any rare earth elements for sale, but are engaged in lawsuits against each other, according to Bloomberg, because of, this one says that one is stealing the technology. Now, the State Department, of course, it's kind of awkward to try to sell to people what's going on here if we are talking about a future conflict with China. So what's happened is that taxpayers' money has been diverted to copy the Chinese and invest in these companies to the tune of billions of dollars, something that we claim that when the Chinese government invests in their companies is communist. But now we're doing this secretly to try to copy the Chinese, as opposed to maybe working with the Chinese to build up our own industry. So do you see what I'm saying? It seems like there is a self-sabotage element, both in terms of the propaganda, like you were saying about CCP, but also just we're not saying all out, hey, we got to make sure the United States can produce what it needs to sustain its population. What we're doing is it's like a gimmick almost.
I mean, that's a lot to unpack, and we have to look at it from a practical sense here. I mean, China wants to work with American, European companies. It's clear. We see it every day. It's just some of it is not highlighted. The negatives are highlighted. We see companies that are over here every day prospering and building bridges with Chinese companies. Let's take the automotive when you were just explaining car factories here. First, we're going to see headlines that say, China doesn't treat its manufacturing employees very well. Okay, so does that mean the AI robots that are building the cars, we should be concerned about their human rights? I mean, is that what people are talking about? Or, it becomes quite comical. But let's look at the car market. I mean, this is a market that the Chinese still use components from some of the North American cars to build them, to manufacture them, and that is important. Now, China and United States still have time to collaborate. I think there's probably a 2 to 4 year window left for the American automotive industry. If they don't shift gears and collaborate with China, who is leading the world in battery technology with companies like CATL and BYD, if they don't, it's over. And I mean that. I mean, within 4 years, the entire US automotive industry will be gone. The average person might say, well, what, are we going to be afraid of these golf carts on wheels? Sorry, they're not even close to being a golf cart on wheels. They are some of the most innovative pieces of hardware ever invented to drive the streets of the world here. And they are coming to a country near you, whether you like it or not. And the consumer will eventually say, all right, we've had enough. Slap a 50% tariff on it. Doesn't matter. I'm buying. Slap a 75% on it. Doesn't matter. I'm buying. And then again, you're going to hear, well, the Chinese subsidize their cars. Well, okay, as a consumer, do you really care if people subsidize car? Wow, the Chinese subsidized my car and I got it 30% cheaper. I'm pissed off. I'm really angry. How do I get mad? I'm mad at the government for discounting my car by 30%. Okay, so we call it subsidizing cars in China. But when General Motors and Ford need a bailout, what do we call that?
Well, also, we need tomahawks, Alex.
Hey, let me ask you a question about these self-driving cars in China. Yeah. Do you have any knowledge of whether or not, if there is a problem, you can reach a human when that problem arises? Do you know anything about that? The reason I'm asking is, go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, it's a very good question. I test drove a car by Ito, and I asked that exact question. It was an autonomous SUV, one of China's largest. It's called the M9, one of China's largest manufactured SUVs on the market. This car was absolutely impressive. had LiDAR technology to it, zero gravity seats, 14 airbags, back seat, 27-inch screen that dropped down for you to watch. It had an extended range, 1,400 kilometer battery. So when there was a problem with it, I said, what happens? They said, there's an instant connection on the system that you talk to a human about a problem. Also, they have that connection because the data centers that run these automobiles are connected, and they can identify if there's even a problem in the vehicle that the owner is not aware.
How's the internet connection in China, by the way? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
You're frozen, Alex, baby.
Right?
yep. We lost you for
You're,
just a
you're
second.
kidding.
No,
You're
you were you were frozen for a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. All right. Well, let me tell you why I asked.
Yeah.
I saw a story in the news. Can I just make
Go
my
ahead.
point,
Go
please?
ahead. That's your car. Yeah.
I saw a story in the news
Here's
that made me really angry. Waymo, some guy took a Waymo to the airport in San Jose, California, and when he went to the to get his luggage out of the trunk, he pressed the button to open it, and it didn't open, and the car took off with his luggage. So you can imagine what that's like when you're about to go somewhere and you don't have your luggage.
Crazy.
And he had the hardest time reaching anybody, and then once he reached them, they wanted him to pay for it to be shipped, and they wouldn't take responsibility for it. And I feel like since we have a podcast and we have a certain amount of ability to influence things, let's make
Jeff's
Waymo
coming
look.
back.
Yeah,
We missed a bit of that. Sorry.
Oh, he
you
didn't
missed a
hear
bit of
you.
what? You didn't hear
Where'd
what
you
I was
lose
just
him?
saying?
Where'd you lose him, Alex?
When the guy put the suitcase in the back of the car, or it was in the back, he pressed the button, car took off. That's where I was.
Right. Well, yeah, the trunk wouldn't open to get his luggage out, and
Okay.
then the car just took off. So the guy didn't have his luggage. So he had a hard time reaching anybody at Waymo, and once he reached them, they weren't even willing to pay for shipping the luggage to him. They wanted him to pay for it. So let's make Waymo look bad. I just found, I don't know if this is what I saw the other day when I saw it. I would just fish something out off the internet while we were talking. Let me just show you this because I want to make Waymo look bad to maybe put pressure on them to do better.
11, not an ideal situation. Imagine you're about to leave for a business trip, but when your Waymo drops you off at the airport, that Waymo takes off with your luggage. A South Bay man is not happy with how Waymo is trying to resolve this situation. Let's bring in NBC's Alyssa Gord. This is kind of a sign of the times, Alyssa.
Yeah, Raj, he actually emailed us when he said he wasn't getting anywhere with Waymo's customer service. He doesn't think that it should cost him money or time to get his stuff back.
Exactly.
On Monday, Jin took his first ever ride in a driverless vehicle, a Waymo, from his home in Sunnyvale to the San Jose Mineta airport. He was going on a business trip.
Honestly, I was very excited about Waymo, the automotive's driving.
He says the drive was smooth, but when he got out of the car and went to the trunk to grab his luggage, he says the Waymo took off before he could.
I pressed the trunk open button, try to get my luggage, but it doesn't do anything, and it drove away immediately.
Jin says he immediately called Waymo customer service, but was told Waymo couldn't turn the vehicle back around. So Jin flew to San Diego with no suitcase, no change of clothes, and no work notes. Later that day, Waymo found his luggage. A rep told him either Jin could pay to have his stuff shipped back to him, or Waymo could cover 2 free rides intended to get him to and from the Waymo yard to get his stuff.
This sounds terrible. It doesn't make any sense at all because it's not my mistake.
Jin didn't feel it was fair for him to pay for the shipping nor take the 2+ hour round trip to San Francisco. So he contacted us. We reached out to Waymo for comment, but have not yet received a statement. We went to Waymo's website in search of information. Under the lost and found portion, Waymo says it is not responsible for items left behind in the vehicle after a trip ends. But Jin says he didn't lose his stuff.
And I already told them very clear it's not lost and found, right? I pressed the trunk open button, but it's just not functional.
Back in November, San Jose became the first airport in
All right, I guess that's enough. Actually, that is exactly the report I saw the other day. So, I mean, that made me so angry. That's why I remembered it. And so we have a certain audience. Waymo, you deserve to have a lot of negative publicity. You got to get your act together. So if this, by the way, that guy I think was Chinese, which is a coincidence maybe, but that wouldn't happen in China. They could reach somebody and they'd probably do the right thing.
You know, mistakes are going to happen when you're dealing with new technology. I mean, you know, just look at what errors have happened in the internet over the last, let's say, 20 to 30 years. So, I mean, yeah, it's probably not uncommon. Those problems probably happen here in China. Is there an element of customer service? You know, I haven't been back to my country in the last maybe 10 years. So I'm not sure if it is, if you can get a human on the phone there anymore. But at least here, I'll give you an example of excellent customer service. One of the largest applications for travel here in China is called Ctrip and Trip.com. They have a 24-hour, 7 days a week application. If you go on the Trip application, just on the phone here, and you open up the application, you'll just see on the bottom of the application that there is customer service. You click on that, and within 2 or 3 clicks, you say, I want a human. There's a human, and you're talking to a human right away. And you can say, I have a problem with my train ticket. I have a problem with my flight. They will call you as well. So they're not deviating away from dealing with customers one-on-one. And I think that's where a lot of people in the world want to have a sense of, you know, assurance that if they're going to travel, if they're going to be moving around in high-speed rails or airplanes or renting cars, if there's any issues, even with their hotels, they want to talk to someone. And I had a friend from Canada come over and stay in Shanghai with me. And we were, you know, walking around looking at some hotels. We were a little bit picky. I said, is the Grand Hyatt, you happy with that? Why don't we try another one? I said, well, I've already booked the Grand Hyatt, but let me get on my Trip app and, you know, let's see if we can get out of it and cancel it. And talked to the customer representative at Trip.com. They said, how about we call the hotel? If you don't want to check in, maybe we can either get you out of your cancellation, or maybe you can credit it and use the room at a later time. And my friend was like, sorry, how is that possible? If I want a refund from booking.com or whatever, I'm waiting months or even half a year. How is that possible? Well, you know, that's the customer service. So I think China has that element, and they understand that, you know, technology is going to make mistakes and make errors. And
that's the thing. Yeah,
so.
Of course mistakes will happen, but do the right thing when it happens.
But I would just add one more thing. Somebody recently said, in a book, China is run by engineers, the U.S. is run by lawyers. So they're gonna solve the problem there in China, whereas we basically are not. And speaking of engineers, Morgan's internet just went on the blink. So,
did
but
she tell you that's what happened?
Yeah, she just sent a message.
Okay.
Now, one thing I want to bring up, it was also in our intro, is on this question of gold and silver. And the reason I'm bringing that up is it's a big deal when it comes to those microchips, to AI, to those cars. China is the largest producer and consumer of gold, as far as I understand, Alex. So how do you see, well, one thing we were talking about, Jeff and I, is the price of gold is moving in a very specific direction, and it's going up, not down. You're a trader also. You do financial things. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what China is thinking, maybe businesses, the government, versus how we're thinking about things over here?
Sure. I mean, you know, the commodities market has been very active here. We saw a massive rally in silver recently over the last 6 months. We saw it spike over, I mean, the ETF SLV went absolutely ballistic and smashed through the $100 an ounce and had it in the rearview mirror. Now it has come back a bit. Gold still, I mean, can you imagine, you know, $4,500 an ounce? I started collecting gold. I actually have some physical gold that I was collecting back many years when I was in Europe, buying, little 10 grams at a time, and was accumulating them, thinking, okay, what are they worth now? And to my surprise, well, they've 4x'd, what I've purchased them for. And I've said to the wife, don't go out and buy a ring, go out and buy some of this stuff and make a necklace out of it because it's going to be worth something. So she has taken an interest in gold. Now, I want to just talk to you about China. The Chinese buy gold to store it. It's part of wealth to them. Of course, they like jewelry, but China is it's a world. It's China in the world here. It's an absolute powerhouse when it comes to gold. It not only does it dominate, global consumption, but it also dominates the production of it as well. Now, if we look at the consumer market here, to my understanding from memory, I think the retail demand is, I would say, probably number one in the world, but it uses it in everything. And we are talking 900 to maybe 1,000 metric tons of physical gold every single year. Okay. Now, if we're going to break that down, we have to understand what sectors use it. Gold isn't just used to look good. It's used in a lot of the technology that we are using today. We spoke in this program about new energy vehicles. I think, Jeff, we have to understand that, what else is gold used for in today? And I think, I want to break it down a little bit. I would say for the average Chinese, the first thing that comes to mind when they get cash is, let's go buy gold. You will see lineups out the stores for people trying to buy gold in Hong Kong. You see gold buyers in Macau. These are special administrated regions here in China. But another thing that I also want to mention is some gold here trades at a premium to what the price is on the market. And they're still willing to pay for it. You'll always hear, hey, what is spot silver trading at in Shanghai? And you'll see that sometimes it's 15 or 20% premium of what you can buy, on the world trading markets. So, if there are other possibilities for people to get into gold, I guess now is the time that people need to get educated about it, because I think it is something that, I personally have looked at this year. And of course, being around the Chinese, well, it's second nature to them to actually go out and buy gold. And of course, their industries use a lot of it.
Yeah.
We just got started with a gold sponsor called Goldco. And so I'm new to the whole world of precious metals, but Ryan has been buying gold and silver for a number of years, and he's educating me. And one thing is, I didn't even know, this might sound ignorant, but I didn't even know that it has a practical use. That's what we showed in the opening video. It's used in chips, and I don't know, I assume it's minute, but a minute quantity in a chip can turn into a lot of gold, I guess. If you're selling a lot of chips. Should those of us who are investing in gold be rooting for Chinese to keep consuming it, because when it's scarcer, that makes the price go up? Is that how it works?
Well, I mean, we've seen the Chinese actually back away from its foreign exchange and gone into gold. I mean, they have a reserve at over 2,300 tons. I mean, so everything is on the table here, Jeff. I mean, if you're looking at from an investment standpoint, people buy gold. If you're looking at it from a consumer, people buy gold. If you're looking at it from an industry, people buy gold. I don't see a slowdown, and neither does the market. If you fell asleep here in the last year and a half, gold has just been flying. And
Yeah.
I like when we hear on some of the programs where they'll say, oh, gold is down $30 a day or $30 today. Oh, gold has fallen from its high. Well, okay, but look where it is right now. Look where it was last year and 3 years ago and 5 years ago. Look at the chart. It's not going anywhere. And the thing that, people need to understand is, how much is really underground. We hear estimates, but then again, the cost of everything is getting expensive. You can't tell me that the cost of mining has gone down. The cost of drilling has gone down. The cost of, exploring has gone down. All these costs go up. It doesn't matter if it's a geologist flying to a destination. His bloody air tickets have gone up too. And even when he lands and wants to get a crew together, inflation has hit them on that nation. So this is a very, very interesting precious metal that I think, people can really relate to and really understand that, okay, do I want, to buy gold, or do I want to have all my money in digital currency?
You know what? Also, war drives these things wild. So the instability of the Middle East, where we can't decide if we're going to, actually have a deal with Iran or not, and it changes hour by hour, and you have people making claims. So what you have is this affects all of the trading. Same thing with Russia and Ukraine. Alex, what do you think about that in terms of causing instability overall? And that would be one reason that these precious metals are going up.
There used to be a rapid response to, a flock to gold when the world was in turmoil, which it is right now. And I don't think we've seen that yet. And that is the surprising point. Could that be a reason to enter it? Could that be a reason to maybe say, hey, is the market behind here? And I seem to think, this is just my opinion. I feel that, as a gold owner, as a, precious metal owner of my own small little stash of gold, I feel that, in geopolitical times like this, especially what's gone on in the Middle East, we saw what happened to oil and what could potentially happen to oil over the next few months. Gold is something interesting. And I think we all need to educate ourselves, and we need to actually look for companies that can provide us and give us a good understanding on what we're actually purchasing.
Well, Somerville, John made a good point, because a lot of people are concerned about, how some of these companies that sell gold, you don't actually get it physically. You get some certificate or something or other, and then you have to store it somewhere and then worry about whether or not you'll actually ever get it. But with Goldco, I don't know whether this is common or rare or not, but since people are bringing this up, I do want to make the point that with Goldco, our sponsor, you can get the physical gold or silver. Now, I have a question. This might be naive, and I apologize because I know you guys are kind of savvy. This might be a stupid question, but it doesn't seem like there's any danger of running out of gold or silver. So what confuses me is that isn't the term precious metals, doesn't that mean it's precious because it's scarce? So that seems like a contradiction in terms. Which is it? Is it so scarce that it's precious, or is there plenty of gold and silver for, for some undetermined amount of time in the future?
Ryan,
is that a stupid question?
I think one is the question of the use and conductivity and principles that are in it physically. And I would just say that the whole question of scarcity is a question mark, because we haven't scoured every corner of the globe. I mean, there are a lot of scientists who say that oil is still being created in the earth now, that it's not scarce either. But also it has to do with the level of technology, right? So there was a time when oil was a sticky goo that got caught in some camel's hooves. and then we discovered that it had a benefit, and so we changed our relationship to nature through a scientific discovery, and we applied that. Now we've gone to nuclear power, which, by the way, Alex, I was reading China has built 30, they're in the process of building 39 nuclear power plants right now. So everybody's complaining about coal. They're far and away building more nuclear power plants in China than, actually, they're building more nuclear power plants than any other country combined after them. So it's about our level of technology. So, I don't know how to answer it other than to say, I think that there's probably plenty, or we don't even know what's being created. I will say that it has more value and is more precious, other than maybe souvenir value, than the new currencies that are coming out. You mentioned digital, but apparently there's a new currency, Alex. I don't know if you've seen this one that's coming out, the new $250 bill in the United States.
That is not a parody. That's a real news story.
That is a real thing. That is really coming out. To me, what's actually good is how you invest, what you're doing inside your country to improve your population, the living standard, what they can buy. I think, Alex, this, in terms of preciousness, maybe the material itself has some value. We call it intrinsic because it's also a measure of payment, in terms of gold and silver. You can pay with that.
Yeah, that's right, Ryan. And I think, these are metals, silver, gold, these are metals that don't decay. And I think that's why, there's this real focus on, is this metal, of cheap quality? I mean, we go back in history, and what do we find in history? We find currency. And we can relate it to certain years of history, and that's why I think it has that. I mean, these are two metals that and probably I would say maybe even platinum or palladium. Don't quote me on that, guys. I'm just guessing, but I would say definitely silver and gold, because you leave them around, they're not going to rust away and corrode or anything like that, and they are pretty much of high value. This ring on my finger here has been there 25 years. So, I mean, it's amazing, right?
The ring or the finger?
The ring.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So yeah, it's interesting.
Somerville John says gold is, he says silver is the thing to invest in more so than gold. You guys have any take on that?
I would say that silver is moving faster right now because the Chinese are using it more and more things, but I don't think I think they're together.
Yeah, there's some interest from Jane Street. They're a big financial firm that is shrouded in secrecy. They've pretty much cornered the ETF SLV. It's an ETF that trades in silver. We've seen some major spikes. We might even have a massive short position out on silver that the financial markets may have to wake up and cover. We saw a lot of spiking going on in that ETF, just same with the price of silver. But again, the Chinese do consume. I think every country is consuming. The point is there more in the ground? Yeah, but what's it going to cost to get it out of the ground is the magical question. Is it going to cost the same price of what it did in 1930 or the year 2000 or even 2020? As we embark into 2030 in the next few years here, we don't know. You put up that $250 bill example on the screen there. Usually nations that only start printing bigger numbers are nations that have problems with inflation. And that's why I think instead of $100 bill,
or that have presidents who have problems with ego.
Yeah.
Well, we had the Reichs,
the above.
Remember, we had Weimar German hyperinflation. That was a lot of printing. So I do think that the focus again is China's building things. And,
Mhm.
you know, you said it earlier, we gave it away, but it doesn't mean we can't learn from China and build ourselves up. I mean, there's a lot of African countries that have more high-speed rail than the United States does, thanks to their relationship with the Chinese. So I think the end story here is more Americans, Westerners, Europeans need to go and visit China. Alex, I'm hoping to go back in October to the Canton Fair.
Yeah, great.
I think
It's a
you're familiar with that.
great event to go to. Yeah, I've been to about 8 of them. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I saw a video of it, and it was, again, another mind-blowing thing. Something else is I've been reading on Chinese and U.S. History from World War II. And there's a lot of history on there, but I think that a lot of the bad thinking that we have goes back to the bad decisions we had back then. That then got us into the Korean War, got us into the Vietnam War. So we got onto this whole, you know, kind of Cold War mentality where we just find these enemies out there and we don't look for how we can survive, coexist at least in some way. And by the way, I wouldn't say that Europe is doing that well, Sarah. Europe is actually economically imploding. There was a top brigadier general that I've posted his words on recently, who came out and was his name was this was on ZDF. I'll just say it real quick. Eric Vod, and he was Chancellor Angela Merkel's military policy advisor for a number of years, and he's come out and said that with the way that the German government is working right now, that that is going to lead to Russia bombing parts of Germany. He said. Because all of these drone factories and so forth are in Germany, and Germany is the staging ground for NATO. So I really think, Alex, and maybe you can make a final comment on this, the U.S., China, Russia, and other nations, they need to actually cooperate with each other for a mutually beneficial thing. Take the example of the Belt and Road. That should maybe go even bigger globally, and we should participate in that too.
Let me just add on to what Ryan said, not only comment on what he said, but also maybe more specifically, can you think of any like very specific, tangible things that we can do to boost this citizen diplomacy effort that Ryan has underway? For example, there's a sister city thing, and we've been talking about identifying which of the cities here in the U.S. have sister city relationships with Chinese cities. That's just one example. Can you think of anything specific that we can do to foster good relations
with the Chinese, or
yeah, U.S.-China relations?
Get educated real quick, or your economy is toast, and it's as clear as that. We have this arrogance as Westerners when it comes to greeting Chinese or feeling that we are above them. And I'll be clear with that. People, when you see it on, you know, the anti-China rhetoric that goes on, it goes on unchecked. It really does go on unchecked. And this is on some of the major media channels throughout North America. They propagandize people at young ages to hate the Chinese, don't do business with the Chinese. It's terrible. All these, you know, very sensationalistic things that are said about the Chinese. It's brutal. So the only way is to get educated real quick. Get on a plane, get your ass over here to China, see what's going on. And you will see every stereotype that has been said about China is absolutely 100% dead wrong. Now, this is coming from a Canadian, a guy that lives in Canada, a guy that loves America. I like America. You know, at 18 years old, I went down to the U.S. border. I was actually trying to sign up as the U.S. military, and the inscription officer said to me, "Son, there's only one problem. We would love you to sign up, but you're Canadian and we can't take you into the military in the United States." I said, "Okay, well, you know, I will then watch your beautiful country. I will watch NASA achieved wonderful things, I was proud of the United States of America. I was proud to be a Canadian at that time. And then my dreams were later flattened by high taxes in Canada, complicated ways to open up companies in Canada, regulations. I headed over to Europe. I'm going to answer some of the people here, in the comments here that Sarah's saying. She's saying, I live in Europe. Yeah, I lived in Europe too for almost 20 years. And I wouldn't be happy to send $109 billion over to a comedian running a country into the ground of Ukraine. I wouldn't be happy with that. But you know what, Sarah? They thank you. And the regime in Ukraine thanks you very much for your taxpayer dollars going into them. And I'm sure that's not the end of it. So again, Jeff, to answer your question, what can we do to get better relationships? Well, China has opened its borders for everybody pretty much to come here. Visa restrictions have been loosened dramatically, okay? If you are coming from many nations, you can come without a visa. Just get a transit visa. 10 days, no problem. Come in, fly out, see what's going on. That should give you a good law of the land within those 10 days.
There's no denying that would definitely give people perspective that they lack. But to be realistic, we're talking about, not everybody can afford to do that. I mean, it's not inexpensive to go to China.
Okay. No, it's not. But
which is not to negate what you said. I'm saying it's a very good suggestion for those who can afford it. For those who can't, is there anything we can do on our end? Like, for example, Ryan said he was meeting with some folks in LA who say they'll help us get podcast guests, and that would help people share the perspective of Chinese people. I don't know if that's going to be a game changer exactly, but is there anything else?
I'm sitting right here.
What we're doing right now might be an example.
If I turn the camera, that's China right outside my window. Okay, everybody, I'm telling the audience right now that are watching, if you don't believe me, I am looking at China right now outside my window. And it's amazing how many people tell me what my life is like here when I'm living here. Okay. Yeah. It's not.
Well, actually, that's a good segue to promote your YouTube channel, because you do some sort of like travel videos and different things along those lines. So let's
certainly
tell
do.
people where they can find you on YouTube.
Yeah, well, Alex, you live in a really modern place.
I'm just going to pivot this camera here. If you see,
yeah, you can be wandering around the streets. You can be our man on the street. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm pivoting the camera behind me here, and this is my dedication.
Let's see if we can make.
Let me zoom out a bit. Let me zoom out a bit. Okay. I'll kind of zoom out my camera, and just going to explain what these are. Okay.
That's a fantastic bookshelf. China has great books.
So these aren't books; these are awards. These are over 150 awards that I have won here in China.
It's blurry.
It's okay. We see it well enough.
Yeah.
Jeff, let the man talk.
There you go. Okay.
There, he took the blur off.
I'll try to.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's 150 awards made for over 750 video productions here in China. Okay. And those are of the highest levels and national awards here in China.
Indeed.
I have dedicated my life to, in the last few years here, to try to build bridges between these nations. And I do that through the lens of cameras. I do it through my video production. And it's been recognized. And when people say to me, why are you there? You're not reporting it the right way. Watch my videos.
Yeah, no, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
In fact, I felt a little bad because
hold on a second, Jeff. Hold on.
Go ahead.
There's another point to everything that you've said, Alex, which people, myself and people like Sarah, don't understand. The scale of what China has done for the number of people that are there is beyond anything that we've seen in the United States in terms of the number of engineers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's 300 million Americans. Chongqing, that what I guess they call now the province, that's 300 million people.
Mm-hmm.
And China has all those other people beyond that. So that is something worth taking in terms of you're talking about the living conditions.
Yeah,
has
you know,
changed.
guys, like when we're talking about, you know, have nations lost their grip on reality? I walked into a hospital here last week here in China. Okay. Ever been to a brand new hospital? Ever been to a hospital that you can get a CT scan without an appointment within an hour? Been to a hospital that it only costs you 46 American dollars to get a CT scan and its result within 2 hours, and cost $1.20 US to see a doctor and to tell him all your problems. And after that, then get medication that costs you $8 without any insurance. So when people tell me, stop comparing China to your country, why? Why can't I? I have a medical system in Canada.
You have my
Yeah,
permission.
I have a medical system in Canada that is failing my 81-year-old mother. She needs to get an MRI, 7 months. Knee operation, 9 months. Okay? When you see these types of things, and when you see that
Does she know she has a son in China?
Of course. When you see these things, Jeff, and you experience them, it's a catastrophe. When I left Europe, to me, it was, I mean, the cost of living in Europe is absolutely outrageous. We did a comparison here, and this is a very, very easy thing to debunk. I was out for a drink the other night, and I was talking to a local bartender, and I was with an Italian guy that just moved from Rome. You might know him, Michele Ponte. He had lived in Rome all his life. 38-year-old guy came over to China. And I said, why did you move here? He says, I can't afford to live in my own country anymore. So we're sitting there and we're talking to this bartender. And I said, I'm curious, you know, how much do you earn? How much do you earn a month? So we calculated, and he says, okay, I earn about, you know, $1,100. And my friend said, okay, well, you know, not bad. We earn about 1,400 in Italy. So I said, okay, well, how do you get to work in Italy? Guy says, well, and for the same types of jobs, he was a bartender in Italy. He says, okay, well, I drive my car. So the Chinese guy says, I take a metro. Car guy pays $20 to $30 for parking. The metro guy pays $1. I said, why don't you take the metro in Rome? Can't. Shuts off at a certain hour. I can't take it home. So I'd have to take a taxi. Chinese guy, metro open. Okay. Guy in Rome, my car might get broken into. Guy in China, I leave my keys in the ignition. Okay. Next, let's talk about tax. Well, Chinese, 9%. Europeans, anywhere from 30 to 50%. Okay. Rental, 1-bedroom apartment, city center, Rome. Tell me if a bartender's salary can handle that. China, city center, 1-bedroom apartment. I shit you not, $200, maybe $225 for something brand new. And we can go on and on and on and on.
And also people have very late model cars. People have a lot of free time. They have vacation. Even if they're elderly, they've been able to save up. And there's a huge number of Chinese tourists to the United States. They can afford to come here. The number of tourists from China in the United States is going off the charts.
This isn't me bashing, Jeff. This isn't me bashing Canada, United States, and Europe. It's holding these countries accountable for their standard of living for their people.
I'm with you, Alex.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. But
let them get passionate.
You know, yeah. The thing is that when did we start to accept 40-year mortgages, 30-year mortgages, 20-year mortgages?
50-year mortgages are on the table now.
When did we start to accept this?
When the Chinese investors bought up all the houses and ruined the American dream.
Oh, yeah. So you know what? You know what's amazing about that comment? And I've heard that comment from a lot of other people. One of my friends says, "Oh, I can't believe this. You know, the Chinese have been buying houses on my street." I said, Okay, are they, spray painting the side of the house? Are they having, big parties? Are they being annoying? Well, no, we never see them. Okay, well, do they pay property tax? Well, yeah, they do. Well, in that property tax, do they have to pay for school systems that they probably don't use? Well, I guess, yeah, but I'm angry because they buy these houses and they don't do anything with them. Okay, well, who's the seller? Who did they sell the $4 million home to, right? They sold it to somebody from China. So I said to him, what did you buy your house for? $350,000. What's it worth now? Well, $4.5 million. Okay, well, if you're bitching that you can't live a decent life on $4.5 million anywhere else on the globe, well, I shouldn't have to move. Everybody moves. And
I don't think that's the complaint, though. I mean, I'm not sure whose argument is more valid than the other, but that's not really the argument. The argument is that a lot of people can no longer get what we call the American dream. They can't buy a home. Not the people who made millions of dollars on the sale.
Yeah, but we blame.
And it's not. By the way, I was half kidding. I was half kidding, by the way, because there's also American investors who are buying up these houses too.
Sure, I agree with that. But how can we blame the Chinese for working so hard to want to come over and spend some of their money? What's the problem with that? We as Canadians, do we have homes in Florida? Is there any snowbirds in Florida? What the hell are we doing down there? Did we drive up the prices in certain cities, maybe in the 70s and 80s? I don't know.
There's multiple factors, that's for sure.
Right. So it's not just the Chinese. Of course, you can blame them, but I mean, we can blame China for everything. So it's amazing. How many people is China bringing into the country? Well, I don't know if that question is. Guys, what does that question mean?
Let's put it on the screen so people know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What happened to Morgan?
Morgan, I just got a message from her on Telegram. She says she wants to apologize to you, Alex. Her internet went out.
How'd you get on Telegram then?
Her phone, maybe.
Can't she get on? Morgan, come on the show. Come on.
You're saying that Morgan is a liar? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying I want Morgan on the show. I don't know if
no, that's a fair question. But your answer to that, Ryan, is phone is different than.
I mean,
we need Morgan back.
Maybe
we need Morgan back.
They could be. It definitely the question of the Chinese coming to the United States vacationing. It's in the millions more now than say 20 years ago. But yeah, that's the other thing. Artemisi says she's not in China. Here, the internet went out. Speaking of that, Alex, when I was on the Yangtze River, we were out in the middle of nowhere, and I was able to FaceTime to people back here in the United States. The internet connectivity all over China is incredible.
Stefan looking to start his weekly fight with me. I'm not going to take the bait, though.
Jeff, you're talking about things we don't care about.
But what is that? No, the comment was, how many people is China bringing into the country?
I guess he means to the United States. I'm not sure.
Does it mean to the U.S. or does it mean into China? Somerville, John, if you could clarify that would be great.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, is it bad when you're bringing in multimillionaires to buy properties that your grandma has actually sold to make millions? So yeah, it's interesting.
That looks like that's what he's talking about. Oh, I see. That's what he's talking about. The whole he's talking about illegal immigrants into the United States.
Has China?
I don't think they have the illegal immigration problem that the United States has been having. That's what he must be talking about. That's the only thing I can think of.
You mean, does China have open borders?
Maybe so.
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to answer that. So, no, China doesn't have an immigration policy. Yeah, I do. At Reporterfy, thank you. Be kind, star. does China have an immigration problem on its border? No, it protects its borders. I think if you try to run across the border, you're probably either going to get arrested or something else. No, we don't have that problem. I don't see that problem. We may have that problem when more economies collapse around the world. Maybe people might want to come here.
Very good. Very good.
But yeah.
All right. Well, Alex,
we have a phone call. I think it might be Somerville John. You guys want to take a phone call?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah. Good.
Somerville John, is that you? Am I recognizing your number?
Yes, you are, Jeff, and thank you very much for taking my call, and welcome to all your international guests.
Hold on, I think you're a little low on the volume. Let me bring you up in the volume. Start again.
Yes, Jeff, thank you for taking my call, and greetings to everybody on the channel tonight. Alex, I'd like to point out that China is a relatively young economy, and of course, you are going to have the advantages of living in China at the right time because you don't have the expenses that the mature elder economies that the USA, Europe, and Canada have now, okay? The Chinese automakers do not operate as pension funds for workers that are retired. So they can afford to invest money in their product and sell their cars as opposed to pay for millions of old bastards like me. Okay? Number two, the Chinese do some things right and they do some things that are not exactly correct. The green society that we have in the United States and Europe could never exist in China. If you had those costs to incur, it would be bye-bye. You can't do this, right? Can't strip mine in the West anymore. In China, you can do whatever you want. It's wide open. It's the Wild West. It's like America was 150 years ago. So enjoy the time now while the going is good. But China will eventually go down the same road that Japan did. You can see what's going on in Japan now. They have a mature economy, mature people. They're not having any more kids. You had the one kid policy in China. They're going to have the same problems. So it's just eventually all of the advantages that China has will go to Africa. That will be the last frontier. And the people, the industrialists will just take advantage of the people in Africa and just, rape them for a while, and a couple of other people will get rich. It is nice that the Chinese were able to bring millions upon millions of people out of abject poverty. I mean, this is unquestionably an absolute wonderful thing that the Chinese have done. But the bill is going to come in 50 years' time. You're going to have the same problems that everybody else has. The only thing that we need to do now is make sure that we don't have a war between the countries and wind up killing everybody and starting all over from scratch. Like Einstein said, the next war will be throwing rocks at one another. So aside from that, if you're going to invest in precious metals, buy in small denominations because they will be tradable if you really ever need to use them. And if you have any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I thank you for taking my call.
All right, well, hang on a second. Maybe Alex would like to respond to what you said.
Well, he can respond and he can listen offline. Jeff.
No, it's okay. We can keep on if you want. It's fine. Thank you very much for the observation of China. It's interesting how we look at China in the eyes of Westerners, where we think that this is a country that goes unchecked. When I arrived at this city of 36 million people, this is a mega city. Is the caller's name Jeff? Is that correct? Or is it
John.
Steve or John?
Somerville John.
So John, just to maybe add some comfort to you here. The city I arrived to here in Chongqing was one of the biggest industrial cities here in China for the last 20 to 30 years. If you look at photos from, if you look at photos from the mid 1990s, you can just go on CNN. You could see what this city looked like. It was shrouded. You couldn't even see the sun through the clouds and through the pollution. And I was talking to one of the leaders here in the media company, and she was telling me a story that it wasn't until recently, when she left China, she traveled around the world, she saw a blue sky, and she says, wow, that's what the sky looks like. Well, unless I'm mistaken, the city that I live in, I still believe looking out that window right now is Chongqing. And 6 years later, this city has zero smog, some of the bluest skies I've ever seen, and some of the cleanest air. Sorry, one moment, and I'll let you respond. Thank you, sir. This has happened for a few reasons. One is government initiative to shut down some of these factories polluting, whether you believe that or not, or where the international market believes that or not. All I know is with my own eyes, with my own breath, walking the streets and spending time out in the sunshine, I understand. And also something I noticed that really changed my opinion on China was its investment in the new energy vehicle sector here. This has revolutionized this entire country. Something special has happened here. You no longer hear running car engines, polluting the streets, coughing, people getting massive infections because of pollution. I have a holiday home in Thailand. I can tell you, over the weekend, when I go there to a city like Bangkok, and I suck in that air for a good 24 hours to 48 hours, I come back with a sore throat and burning eyes. And I'm back here in beautiful Chongqing, China. This city, have a look at it now. It's one of the most Instagrammable cities on the planet. It has gone viral, and it is as blue as can be. Now, on to, is China going to fail in the future? It could. It might. Is Africa the last standing nation that might be able to prosper? If it does, at least it's got the Belt and Road and the countries that are connected to China to bring it along.
Yeah.
Who's making those noises? Is that
You
your wife, John?
You left Somerville John on the phone. That's why I was saying you should let Alex talk without him on the phone.
Wifey is joking over here, but I would just say that I agree with some of the things Alex says.
Sure.
And I also believe that China now is exporting a lot of their pollution to other countries. They are going more green, but China will also have to eventually get off the coal power plants and go totally to nuclear power, which I think is wonderful. I think all countries should.
Somerville John, you didn't hear me earlier that I said China's building 39 nuclear power plants. Number 2 is India with 6. Number 3 is Russia with 5. Probably a lot of the Chinese ones are being built by Russia. Nobody else is building them. Okay. So, and it is also the case that China makes huge amounts of power from garbage. Okay. Other places do that, not on the scale that China does. These problems that you're talking about, they actually think about these problems. This was sent to me by the Beijing city planning. If you, John, can see your screen, I have the entire plan, and I spent an hour plus with the people that are building the city of China. Look at this master plan from 2016 to 2035, which I had translated with my software here. The Chinese, they're not thinking, 5 years into the future. They're not thinking the way that we tend to think here in the West. They're thinking decades and decades and decades into the future, how they're going to manage these cities so that they can sustain more people at a higher standard of living. Nobody in the West is thinking like that at all. That's the fact. And you can't project Western mode of thinking onto a country that has decided to, not make the same mistakes that we have made. That's a fact. And that's why I wanted to show that. I spoke to the people that are planning it out. They're answering those questions. They're not ignoring what you're saying, John. They're answering those questions.
But Ryan, I would have to counter that the master race, the Germans, had industrial electrical power from waste 50 years ago in Mannheim. I was at the incinerator generating electricity when I lived there long ago.
Sure.
As tech rep.
Well, maybe thinking about master race was the problem. Okay. Let's just take a look at that question here. Well, the Chinese don't think of themselves as the master race.
But we have also shut down all of our nuclear power.
Yeah, China.
Your wife is all riled up. Does she want to get on the phone too, or what?
Really? Get the neighborhood.
We've been here.
Wife.
You got to think differently, John.
Not that good.
You and your wife, you should come to China. You should come with me. Come to Alex's city, which, frankly, that city is the most jaw-dropping city on the planet. But
let's do a group trip, a field trip.
Guangzhou is also jaw-dropping.
All right. Alex, can you arrange for some good wine for us? And also, I'm a little bit worried about weed. I think is legal there. Will I get thrown in jail if I have a little bit of weed just to get me through the night?
No comment.
Yeah, Jeff, it'll be a better jail than you would be if you were here.
We'll talk offline about that, about how we get around that little difficulty.
All right. Anyway, Alex, am I right that they think differently about these things? That, as I showed with that thing, they're thinking in many longer waves than we are.
Yeah, as I said many of times, we try to understand this culture. We try to understand their way of thinking. It's different. They plan, this is a civilization that's been around for 5,000 years, and we think it's going to end in 50.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So it's not going to, and I appreciate everything you're saying, John, but watch and see what happens.
Look,
all right, John, thanks a lot for the call. We appreciate it. We need more audience participation, and you're one of our favorites. Thanks a lot, John.
Alex,
all the best.
It's a challenge for people to give up old ways of thinking and broken ways of thinking. And that's, I will say, having been to China one time, okay, I can just say that the shock was enough that now I question the way I think about so many things.
It's interesting because we spoke before you were coming to China, and I was saying, hey, come in here with your eyes wide open. You did, and it's really refreshing to hear what you've gathered and brought back, and that's happening to many people every single day that are landing outside of that airport that I can see with my eyes right now, International Airport here, and that built a brand new terminal, $1 billion terminal, just to welcome us international guests. Yep. Pretty nice stuff. Thanks, China.
Yeah, for sure. I just want the United States. I would like the United States to copy China the way that China copied the United States. But we've learned from each other, so we just need to keep learning more. That's.
But I'll tell you, the Chinese don't want a conflict. The Chinese are very aware of American dominance in military power. They're very aware of that. I wanted to bring up, I think that there's something that a lot of people really don't understand, the Taiwan issue. And I mean, all one has to do to conquer that argument is read the Shanghai communique. It was signed by Richard Nixon in 1972.
Republican.
It's very clear. The U.S. declared that it acknowledged that all Chinese on either side of Taiwan Strait maintain there is but one China, and that Taiwan is a part of China. The other thing to conquer that argument is look at the United Nations. Does Taiwan have a seat there? No, because they are part of China. And I mean, it's written in the communique. I mean, Jimmy Carter talked about it more and more in 1979. So that's where we are with it. That's the way, Chinese, it's a province here in China, an island province. People refer to them as brothers and sisters. No one wants conflict. I don't know why the U.S. media builds it up that, if China goes in and takes Taiwan. When we hear that kind of thing over here, doesn't really resonate. It's more of like, are they agitating? You promise not to bring over Americans to sell arms to Taiwan, but America did. Lindsey Graham is on his dog and pony show selling arms to the island province. Why? Well, we can only imagine what that psychopath has in mind. So at the end of the day, the Chinese are very, very aware of the firepower of the United States. Scott Ritter has made that very clear on some of the programs that we've shared the screen with. And, I just think that, the Chinese aren't in the game of, let's bomb, bully, and bankrupt nations. Let's build them, let's do business, and let's build bridges. And that's what they want to do. They like making money. You can see that every New Year's, their wishes is to get rich. Yeah, that's what they say every New Year's. Instead of Happy New Year's,
I have their,
get rich.
you can probably say what it is, but that's the little money dragon they told me, where he's got a mouth open on one side, and the money comes in, and you don't poop it out the other side. So
exactly.
The last thing I wanted to say here before we let you go, I had spoken with the Deputy Consul General, and he said, well, that's true about making money, except as Confucius said, it should be done from doing good things. So I think that is the most important part of that, actually. It should be done from doing good things.
Ryan, I think one thing that you probably identified here, that it is a cashless society, right?
Yeah.
And
there is cash, but I brought most of it back.
What happens with a cashless society? Oh, that's beautiful. Is that it stops a lot of illegal trade, whether it's in drugs, whether it's in prostitution. A lot of that stuff, it's very hard to, if you see somebody walking around with, I don't know, $1,000 worth of Chinese currency, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb here. You walk into a store and you slam down cash to buy a watch or something, they're going to look at you very strange. So, with that taken out, it does kill a lot of bad things happening. Whatever those businesses are, they've pretty much died out. Now, that's not to say that, we shouldn't be skeptical about a digital economy. Before I go, I just want to, tell the viewers here, I've been a derivatives trader for 20 years, and we are approaching some very interesting times coming up here. The financial markets, the New York Stock Exchange, and many other platforms, the S&P, the NASDAQ, they are going to tokenize these equities. And this is going to send shockwaves around the world, where it's pretty much saying that the New York Stock Exchange, you're going to be able to trade stocks 24 hours, 7 days a week, around the clock, around the world. And when we start to invite investors into these financial markets from around the world, I don't think all of them have good intentions. That could mean that certain countries could corner certain markets or corner certain companies. And of course, then you have novice investors that are trading a market like it's a poly market or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you have the crypto boys in there that are trading it like a crypto market. So we are in for quite the ride. I do share that a lot in my, you can see on the tag there, artofthetrade.vip. That is, I do some coaching on derivatives market. But in the end here, I'm kind of concerned about the tokenization of, U.S. securities. I think it's something that everybody needs to look into and be cautious because it is coming and no one's talking about it.
Thank you.
All right.
That's interesting.
Well, we gave all the different places where people can hear what you have to deliver to the public. And in general, Alex delivers great content. But Alex, is there anything in particular, anything special that you have coming up in the coming days or weeks, or just no? Go ahead.
Well, I hope I get invited back on the show because I wanted to talk to, engage more with Morgan. She had a lot of things that she wanted to bring up in today's program, and I was hoping to engage on that. But hopefully you guys bring me back on so we can do that. And she's always
thank you for inviting yourself.
You're welcome anytime, Alex.
We want you back. In fact,
great.
what we'd like you to do, maybe we can work this out. Could we bring you and Cyrus Jansen? Because sometimes the two of you have
no problem.
The way that the two of you work together sometimes is really
we'd like that. He'd like
very
that.
interesting. And
he's
really,
in China right now. He's in China.
Oh,
right now,
he is. Okay.
With us. Yeah. So we can make that happen. We'd love to. Yeah.
We love Morgan, and I'm so pleased that you're interested in engaging with her. But just out of curiosity, was that a general statement, or is there something in particular she said that aroused your interest?
Who are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah, Morgan. I'm talking about Morgan. I'm saying I don't blame you for wanting to engage with her, and that's great. But was there something in particular? I'm just curious.
Her insights, Jeff.
Yeah. So nothing in particular, just in general. Yeah. She's great. We love her. All right.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Alex, stick around. We're going to
sounds great, guys.
Till after the show, and actually, Jeff, we got a couple of songs that I found today online that are in our closing. They're fun. I did not figure out who the authors were, but anyway, they're good. See if you can figure out.
Yeah, it's a good mashup that kind of shows a little blend of the U.S. and China culture. So we'll close with that. Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you, Ryan,
guys.
And thanks to our beloved audience. Take care, everybody.
我开水锅烫日的能卖给你生瓜蛋子啊！我问你这话保守吗？你是故意找茬儿，是不是？你要不要吧？你这瓜